Quick little video today. Now, I want to talk briefly about the AirBnB IPO, which happened yesterday. Now, there was a lot of hype and excitement around this IPO, and boy oh boy did it deliver. Now, the IPO was priced at $68 per share, which means that institutional investors like banks, hedge funds, etc. had the first opportunity to buy in at that price, and they did so. As a result, Airbnb raised $3.7 billion. Then yesterday, the shares opened up to the general public and bam, things got crazy real quick. Almost immediately after opening to the general public for trading, shares skyrocketed from $68 to over $151 per share. So in the span of a few minutes, the institutional investors that were able to buy in at $68 per share were able to cash out if they wanted to at a gain of over 120%. And that's in a few minutes of work. And I'm sure that those investment bankers were gleefully laughing as they counted their profits. Meanwhile, John Q. Public is gobbling up these shares like some kind of rabid animal, and I just don't get it. And all this is for a company that, let me read some stats here, had no profits for the last couple of years. In fact, in 2019, it lost $500 million that year alone. Now, I understand that they lost all that money because they're in a growth phase and they're investing in marketing, sales, and research and development, but still. Also, Airbnb lost 32% of its revenue this year because of the pandemic, and also their growth in active users and listings on the website obviously took a huge hit also as a result of the global lockdowns because no one is traveling and going on vacation and staying in Airbnbs. Another fun fact, the company had to lay off 25% of its workforce to stay afloat during these tough times. And also, they've been using $2 billion in loans to cover their operating costs because they have not been making nearly as much revenue as they would normally have. Finally, also, there's a lot of issues legally around the world in terms of city zoning bylaws and whether or not Airbnbs are allowed to operate. So all of these factors are compiling to, in my mind, create kind of a tough business environment for a company like this. Considering all these factors, watching the Airbnb stock price rise from $68 per share to over $150 per share in the span of minutes seems a little bit like mania to me. And now, I'm no financial analyst, and all I'm bringing to this is a modicum of common sense, but it seems absolutely nuts. Maybe there's something I'm not seeing here, and if that's the case, I would love an explanation as to how Airbnb could possibly be worth this much. I've seen some good technical analyses of the company, including one by one of my favorite investing YouTubers, Tom Nash. And none of the smart people that I see talking about this company could suggest that it's worth anywhere near what it was valued at yesterday at an average share price of $150. Tom Nash, in his technical analysis, actually said that the company currently today is probably worth closer to between $50 and $60 per share. So what gives? Why are people willing to pay so much for a company that's clearly not worth $150 per share today? Well, obviously they're buying the expectation of growth, and they're buying a potential future Airbnb that they imagine will be profitable. But given all the other factors that I mentioned, I just don't see how the company is possibly worth what the market is valuing it at today. I definitely think that there's a little bit of groupthink, overenthusiasm, and potentially mania that's going on right now around this company. And so I'm staying very far away from Airbnb at its current valuation. In fact, one of my friends shared an interesting statistic with me today, and maybe the mania is not just around this one company, because in 2020, there have been 19 IPOs where the stock price of the company doubled in the first day that it was listed publicly. And if you go back over the last several years, over the last decade, nothing close to that has been happening. So I'm not sure exactly what's going on here, but I'm feeling quite cautious in the current investing environment. And that's all that I have to say about that. Have a great Friday. See you later.